Okay, hello, everyone. I now call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees of Oak Grove School District on June 13th to 2024 at approximately 5:08 p.m. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as submitted?
I move that the Oak Grove School District Board of Trustees approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then we have two absent. Okay. Hearing none, the agenda has been approved as submitted. We do have two absences. We will now, the board at this time will recess to closed session to discuss public employee and performance and evaluation of the superintendent, public employee discipline, release and dismissal, Government Code Section 5495-7, public employee appointment, assistant assistant superintendent, public employee employment of the superintendent, assistant superintendent of educational services, Government Code Section 5495-7, conference with real property negotiators, Government Code Section 5495-6.8, and confer with labor negotiators. Persons wishing to address the board on closed session items may use the raise your hand Zoom feature to speak. Please reference the agenda item in your public comment and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone here to speak to these closed session items?
No virtual comments.
Okay, and seeing none in person, we will now recess to closed session and return at approximately 6 p.m. Thanks so much.
Check. Jorge, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, welcome to the regular board meeting of June 13th, 2024. There are many opportunities just for the public to address the board, public hearings, public comment, or during a specific agenda item. If you wish to speak to the board, please complete the request to speak card in the front of the room and provide it to the recording secretary. If you are joining the meeting via Zoom, please select the raise your hand feature in order to have your name called when the agenda item is reached. In-person speakers will be called to the podium first, followed by Zoom attendees. When it's your turn to speak, you will have 3 minutes to speak. The Brown Act governs meetings of governmental bodies in California. Your comments to the board must be specific to the agenda item you are addressing. If there is no specific item, you are welcome to present the comments during public comment. Please note you are attending a public meeting of the Board of Trustees and doing the public's business. This is not a public forum for public debate. I will now pass the land acknowledgement to our trustee, Pacheco.
Here.
Okay, awesome. Please leave the land acknowledgement. You're muted.
Oh, hold on one second. I'm sorry. I'm having a connection issue. All right. 1 second. Okay. Okay, through 5 more seconds. Okay. So we acknowledge that the Oak Grove School District and our schools occupy the unceded territory of the Muwekma Ohlone Nation, the sovereign nation and original people of the skies, land, and waters, where we work and learn. The Muwekma Ohlone people are the stewards of these lands and of the teaching and learning that comes from and responds to the needs of these land and people who share it. May our daily lives and work, research, teaching, community engagement support the evolving vision of the Muwekma Ohlone for the community in these lands.
Thank you so much, Member Pacheco. Superintendent Monzo, will you lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, you can join me, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. And Superintendent Monzo, will you please provide the superintendent's report?
Thank you, President Gonzalez. First, I'd like to welcome everybody here, and if anybody is joining us virtually, I'd like to acknowledge that we completed another school year. And so congratulations to all of our staff and to our parents. And we certainly wish a restful summer period for all of our staff, and also a safe and a restful period for all of our youngsters that hopefully will be involved in many activities and enjoy the outdoors and get energized to come back to the new school year in 24-25. A couple of updates. Had an opportunity to take a field trip with our Superintendent Student Advisory Council to Santa Clara University. I want to thank Ms. Cecily Vu for supporting me and getting all the arrangements and everything set up for that event. It was just another opportunity for our student leaders to see a pathway into kind of their next phase, to look forward to their next phase as part of their educational journey and as part of being our current leaders, but more importantly, our future leaders as well for our society. So also want to thank Principal Mondragon Dotti and Principal Gonzalez from Edenville for joining us during that event as well. We also attended an adult ESL celebration at Edenvale. I want to thank Ms. Julie Silva, who's been supporting us and restarting this opportunity again for our parents. We had been doing that for various years, And after COVID, we had to take a pause in providing that opportunity for our community, for our parents. And so happy that we have restarted that back for our community. And so it's just, again, fantastic to see our parents as learners and being excited about that engagement of learning, and also that role modeling that is so important for our students as well. So again, Ms. Silva, thank you for supporting our families with this very special opportunity for their learning and role modeling for their kids. We had also Café con Jose, the last one of the school year, with District 10 Councilmember Batra. So he joined our Café con Jose back on May 31st at our local Starbucks. We had, as always, a very good attendance of families. And Mr. Batra, Councilmember Batra, had an opportunity to hear directly from our community members around topics that are important for them. And one of the things that was a common theme in terms of feedback to the council member was around school safety from the perspective of crossing guards and the city's role in supporting school safety within our schools. And the feedback for Councilmember Batra was related to how do we ensure that as students are making their way to school or making their way home from school, that we provide safe opportunities for students to be able to do so as well. And so it was a really good conversation. And again, it was an opportunity for our community, our parents, to speak directly to folks that have influence in budgetary decisions related to that area of common good for the city of San Jose and for our local schools as well. We also had an opportunity to celebrate and participate in numerous promotion ceremonies. I want to thank our exec team for being part of that. The last number of years, we have had to kind of divide and conquer. Years back, we had them all at Oak Grove High, and it was kind of a full day of the graduation or the promotion ceremonies that allowed all of us to be there. But after COVID, the schools started to do those celebrations at their local schools, and they found that actually that became a more intimate type of experience where parents are actually coming to their school where their kids are promoting from, and had more of an opportunity to be engaged and celebrate in that special accomplishment as they transition into high school. So, so thank you for all of your participation, and of course, congratulations to all of our promoted 8th graders that will be joining our Eastside High School District and various schools and as well. And let's see. Oh, we also had the Cultural Arts Expo on May 16. Again, just incredible celebration of, again, a different area of talent that I'm hopeful that with the incorporation of more visual performing arts teachers in the coming years, this will be amplified, but just the level of talent that we have in our district and in our youngsters and what they create is just exceptional. It was so impressive to see all of that work displayed in one setting. This year, it was also the first year back from a bit of hiatus, so to speak, because of COVID and resurfacing that wonderful event as well. Let's see. I think think that, let's see. I guess just the last part of that is, I want to just acknowledge also Eva Marcota, who is here, that brought this special celebration and will be in charge also of supporting all of our schools with the amplification of our visual and performing arts program moving forward. That's still correct, right? Okay. You know, some of the changes and shifts, so wanted to make sure. All right, so with that, that concludes my superintendent's report. Thank you, President Gonzalez.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Monzo. So the board met in closed session to discuss public employee performance evaluation of the superintendent, and no action was taken. Public employee discipline, release, and dismissal, and no action was taken. Public employee appointment of the assistant superintendent, no action was taken. Public employee employment of the superintendent, assistant superintendent of educational services, no action was taken. Conference with real property negotiators, no action was taken, and conference with labor negotiator, and no action was taken. I will now open the public hearing of 4.1, public hearing on the adoption of the Oak Grove School District budget for fiscal year 2024 through 2025 and projected ending fund balances identified in the budget. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this item?
There is no virtual comment.
Okay, and seeing none in person, I will now close the public hearing. I will now open the public hearing on the proposed adoption of the Oak Grove School District Local Control Accountability Plan for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this item?
There's no virtual comment.
And with none in person, I will now close the public hearing. And this brings us to item 5, public comment. This is an opportunity for individuals to address the board on any school-related issue, which is not a part of this evening's agenda. Are there any individuals who wish to speak to the board at this time?
There are no virtual comments.
Okay. And with no public comment, we can move to bargaining unit comment. Do we have any reports from bargaining unit representatives? Okay, sounds good. Are there any online?
No comments online.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving quickly. So let's see, that moves us to our consent agenda. Superintendent Monson.
Yes, I'd like to recommend the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
May I have a motion in a second?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
Do we have any board discussion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Member Hernandez,
Aye.
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Pacheco,
Aye.
President Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. And that brings us to our action items. Action item 7.1, resolution 1471-0624, board member absence, Superintendent Monzo.
Yes, consistent and as required by Education Code 35120 subsection C. This resolution is presented for approval for consideration of board absence due to an acceptable reason for the board. So I recommend that the board approve resolution for board member absence for President Beja Gonzalez on the May 9th board meeting.
I move to approve the resolution as presented.
I second.
May we have a roll call vote?
Member Hernandez,
Aye.
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Pacheco,
Aye.
President Gonzalez.
Abstain?
Motion carries.
Okay, and that brings us to item 7.2, resolution number 1470-16/06/24, order of election specifications of order of the election order and consolidation requests. Superintendent Monzo.
So this item is presented to the board during an election year, so every even year now. This is presented to the board whenever there is board members that are going to be on the ballot for reelection, consideration for reelection. And so as part of that requirement, we submit a resolution to the Registrar of Voters, and that officially allows the Register of Voters to place our elected areas for our district that on the November election, calling for the election of board members. And so that cost is divided by the number of other districts or entities that have ballots on the or that have items on the November ballot. And so this is a requirement that needs to be presented and considered for the board for approval in order to call for the election in November.
Thank you. So I'll move that the Board of Trustees adopt resolution number 1470-0624, order of election as presented.
Second.
Okay, may we have a roll call vote?
Member Hernandez,
Aye.
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Pacheco,
Aye.
President Gonzalez,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you so much. And that moves us to item 7.3, resolution number 1475-06/24, recognizing the month of June as National LGBTQ+ Pride Month. Trustee Pacheco?
Yes, I'm happy to reintroduce this resolution and shout out to Cecily for helping me put this together too. This is such an important resolution and also month because as we know, LGBTQ plus Americans are part of every single community in our country, and they construct a really important pillar of all of our communities. And so I think for our district to show not just the Oak Grove School District, but every school district around the county and across the state, that this is something that this is a community that we should celebrate. This is a community that we should hold dear and honor, and publicly and visually, especially by flying the pride flags at all of our school sites in perpetuity. This shows that we value all families, that we value all people, and that inclusivity is something that we hold dear to our hearts, no matter what. And so just thank you for placing this on the agenda, President Gonzalez, and I'm also really honored to be part of probably one of the only school boards in the state that is majority LGBTQ. It's something that I have a deep pride in. And so with that, I move to approve the resolution as presented.
Thank you, Trustee Pacheco. I second.
Okay, is there any board discussion? And any public comment?
No public comment.
Thank you so much. May we have a roll call vote?
Member Hernandez,
Aye.
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Pacheco,
Aye.
President Gonzalez,
Aye.
motion carries.
Okay, and that brings us to our information items. We will start with 8.1, 2024 through 2025 budget adoption assumptions. Superintendent Monzo?
Thank you, President Gonzalez. It's that time of year where we are at that benchmark time. As we know, there are 3 critical times in the school year related to budget. Well, every day is a critical day in the district related to budget, right, Ms. Nguyen, Mr. Evans? But certainly some very specific milestones with first interim, second interim, and then the June budget. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Associate Superintendent Evans to further introduce this item and lead through this presentation as well.
Thank you, Superintendent Monzo. Just wanted to kind of present to you the budget. Actually, the legislature passed their version today. That still will be finalized with the governor, but We built this basically off the May revise, and I wanted to go into a little of the background with the different components of the budget, what comes down from the state, and how it trickles down into our actual implementation. If we can go to the next slide, we'll be looking at the kind of state outlook for the budget adoption. We've heard a lot about the changes in revenues and stuff, so I'll speak to that a little bit. The LCFF, the local control funding formula, which is hand in glove with the local control accountability plan, which you'll hear about later. I'll review our budget building assumptions. Those will be familiar to you because they have not changed a lot since our previous reports. And then we'll look at the revenues and expenditures specifically in the year we are completing, as well as the budget year ahead. And then as we look at the ending fund balances, that multi-year projection of where we'll be going in the next several years. So if we can go to the state budget, we can skip the decorative slide, move on to the actual graph of revenues that we both projected and are currently projecting. The purple line at the top is what was passed last June with the 23-24 budget adoption. The orange line is what the governor anticipated in January, and the green line is the latest information from May. As you can see, the revenues that were projected for 22-23 were much higher than was actually what was collected. Part of the challenge was that was all the delays in the collections of income taxes and the deferrals of due dates to as late as November. And what they anticipated and what they actually got was significantly different, about $25 billion difference in January, and actually increasing to $27 billion difference in May. In the budget last year, they expected the revenues to decline, but they declined even more in 23-24 than anticipated. And in 24-25, you'll see they increase a little bit, but still lower than in the past. This creates a challenge because Prop 98 is basically about 40% of the state general fund. Most of those revenues come from three primary sources. If the next slide kind of shows the source of revenues for the state. The big three, they're called, is the personal income tax, PIT, the sales tax, and the corporate tax. And what you'll see here is during the kind of surge of the economy, the inflation, the stock market, we had a huge increase in 2021 through 22-23 of revenues coming in, or 21-22, and you can see that they fell off in 22-23 and are kind of back on track as to where they were pre-pandemic. This created a great deal of revenues and resources for schools and the state in general, but now there's been that correction. This is a typical correction that happens, particularly with a recession or an adjustment in the stock market, because California is highly dependent upon capital gains from the stock market. So you'll see that, when we run into these problems in the dot-com bust in 01-02, in the Great Recession of 07-08, you'll see a similar pattern. This is a more exaggerated one, and it creates a challenge as we correct and get back to our normal growth pattern. The next slide kind of shows how it really impacts our Prop 98 amounts. And in the blue, you'll see what was expected in June of 23 when they passed the last budget, significantly more revenues for Prop 98. We could jump back to the previous slide. The revenues projected for 98 going forward, substantially lower, particularly in 22-23, and this is the challenge. We were funded based on this larger number of 107.4 billion, and we came in over $8 billion less than that. The governor proposed not to take that back because that, was already handed out and delivered to schools. But he did talk about re-indexing the base of Prop 98. The challenge to that then is that our growth is from a smaller number. So that was a lot of the dialogue between the California Teachers Association, the governor, the California School Boards Association, and currently the plan is to not lower the index as much. They'll be lowering it a little bit, but we will grow from about 105 billion rather than 98 or 97 billion, which is good for us in the long run. The challenge is that there are not funds, as you saw from the decline in revenues, so that becomes what's called a maintenance factor. We won't see the money this year, but the good thing is our growth will be based on the higher base level, and the funds they can't give us this year will be owed to us in the future. So the next slide kind of talks about what those impacts are to school finance with this fall off of state revenues. just generally fewer funds for Prop 98 because there's just less dollars and we're proportionally tied to that. The fact that they are suspending Prop 98 and the legislature voted on that as they adopted their budget, any funds that they don't meet the baseline, that becomes the maintenance factor. It's a term you'll hear. It was a very big term in 07, 08 when we had the Great Recession, and it took several years. There's no guarantee as to when we get those funds back, but they will come back as one-time dollars sometime in the future when the state budget is in a better condition. We've also returned to just a slower growth. We don't have the high COLAs. The COLAs this year were much lower than we expected. It did end up being 1%. But in the future, they're running in the 2-3% range, which is historically normal. And also, as we move into normal times, we aren't seeing the influx of one-time funds. With the excess dollars, we had Learning Recovery Grant, Arts and Music Block Grant, separate from Prop 28 Arts and Music monies, but we won't be seeing those in the near future. Probably the next time we'll see them is when the maintenance factor starts getting funded back again. So looking at how it transitions from that high level at the state and the whole budget, and then the interaction between that budget and those numbers and our LCAP. The next slide kind of shows a form that we use. It's called the Budget Overview for Parents. It's a snapshot from that, and it kind of shows our whole budget, all of our revenues on the left. The largest section are the local control funding formula funds, $108 million here in Oak Grove. And then the other components, federal funds, local funds, and then other state dollars that we get separate from the LCFF, all come together to give our budget of about $136 million for 24-25. On the right is the breakdown of just the LCFF dollars. Of that 108 million, basically 100 million are for general purposes, and that percentage is wrong. It should be 93%, not 73%. And the supplemental dollars are about 9 million. The supplemental are generated for the additional services to provide resources for students who are free and reduced lunch, English learners, or foster care. And you'll probably hear more about that in the LCAP presentation itself, because we need to focus and identify specific intervention supports to provide services to those students. On the next slide, you'll see kind of where the funding is distributed. Our total expenditures are $153 million for the 24-25 school year. And the total expenditures within the LCAP itself, our plan of action, is $125 million. Now, there are expenditures such as, insurance, utilities, things like that, that don't necessarily fall into the LCAP. So you won't see every dollar we get in our LCAP expenditures, but you will see that our LCAP expenditures exceed our LCFF funding. And that's because we're using resources from other state funds, from federal funds, from local funds to add services and expand beyond the dollars we get from the LCFF. As we start building the budget, we have to look at all of the kind of components that come together and give us the information we need to look at the immediate budget as well as the years ahead. And these are slides that you'll recognize as familiar. Our enrollment, I've spoken of that before. Our enrollment and in turn our ADA. You'll see our enrollment continues to decline, but it actually slows its decline in 24-25 and 25-26. It increases a little bit in 26-27, and part of that is in 26-27, we'll no longer be getting new allocations of transitional kindergartners. We're adding a few months each year, but in 26-27, we'll have all of them here, so we won't be getting that new population for that new grade level. But it isn't declining as fast as we had anticipated in the years past. The funded ADA, you'll see takes a significant drop from 23-24 to 24-25. And as I've mentioned before, we do a 3-year average, and our earliest years were those high numbers. So we're having more significant drops from 23-24 to 24-25, but they aren't as severe in the years coming forward because the numbers are more close in their averages. The other sunny spot here is that our ADA is increasing. We were running about 93% in the past. We're just shy of 94% now. Still not to pre-pandemic levels, which was 96%, but moving in the right direction. So that's helping us out as well. Other assumptions relate to the COLAs and the LCFF. As I mentioned, the COLA for this year was much smaller than expected. Originally, it was going to be 3.94, but we got a little wind at our tail because the proposal in January was only 0.76. So it did tick up a little bit, and at least going in the right direction. And then you'll see in the out years, running around 3%, which is again, kind of returning to that normalcy of growth. And then those would be the grants that LCF hands out based on those COLAs. In 24-25, the base grant is 11,226. We get additional funds for that supplemental population that I was talking about. So our total LCFF is about 12,308 averaged across the district. Other assumptions, I mentioned the 3-year rolling average on attendance. There's also a 3-year rolling average on the unduplicated pupil count, which is those students who qualify as our supplemental dollars. They have risen up to 50%, but we anticipate that'll just slip back a little bit by 26-27, probably going to 48.78%. So a little over a 1% decline as our population shifts. And again, as I mentioned, no kind of one-time funds. Pension costs continue to increase, particularly on the PERS side of the house, and we don't see any other one-time funds coming from state or federal resources. So let's bring it down to the nitty-gritty of our dollars and cents here at the district and how they've been expended both this past year as well as what we're anticipating in budget for 24-25. Here on the estimated actuals, a look back at this point for 23-24, we'll finalize that and close the books over the summer and bring that information back to you in September. But our LCFF, you can see in last year was a little bit higher, partly because our ADA would have been higher with that average. Federal funds close to the same, a little bit higher. Other state running parallel, other local higher in 23-24. Some of those may show up because oftentimes these funds don't register until the actual budget year. We'll see things like the redevelopment agency that I've talked about that brings in money. We had a nice influx of Medi-Cal money come in 23-24. We may not see that again in 24-25. So in the end, we had $146 million of revenues in 23-24, a significant decline overall to about 136.5 in 24-25. So that's the end of some of those one-time dollars, the lowering of the enrollment and ADA impacting us over time. So the graph on the next page is just a more visual look at it, very similar to the graph we saw at the budget overview for parents. And then the next slide kind of looks at the expenditure side of our budget. And here you'll see, well, the revenues are going down, the expenditures are kind of holding pretty steady. The top 3, certificated, classified, and benefits, are increasing. We have our negotiated settlements to implement in 24-25, so those numbers reflect that. And then the increase in benefits. We did increase the benefits last year with that sudden spike we got for our employees, so we made an adjustment there, and that's carrying forward. Supplies are about the same. That's kind of a mixture because in that supplies would be our math adoption. So there's some supplies that are going down, and then the math adoption is bringing it back up. And the other outgo is our costs for the county programs to support students in special programs. So our expenditures year over year ticking up a little bit, but not significantly different than 23-24. And the next slide is again a graphic of that. You'll see that most of the chart is people. We're a people business, and the certificated salaries, the classified salaries, and the benefits to support them make up about 80% plus of our budget. The ending fund balances. In the next slide, the first columns on the left are kind of ones we spoke about, the estimated actuals in the budget. And there's the short version of the revenue and expenditures. And you'll see the difference is that the expenditures are exceeding our revenues. Some of that in 23-24 is that we had lots of one-time dollars that carried over multiple years. So we had more dollars to spend. The transfers from the special reserve, I've color-coded those because the first 2 years in blue are actually related to the minor funds that you set the plan up for in last fall. The proceeds we received from the sale at Minor helped fund the textbook adoption, the early retirement incentive. Those were things that they were allocated to be used towards, and those are the dollars being used there. Those are not the Calero dollars at this time. So you'll see our ending fund balance is quite healthy in 23-24 with about $40 million, declining to $26 million. And then in the out years, you'll see our revenues are pretty flat. So the loss of enrollment and the COLAs are about balancing out. Our expenditures pull back a little bit, but they're relatively flat, and our deficits are increasing. And this is where in those 2 years, the 8.8 million transfer from special reserve and the 8.4 million, those are the Calero dollars that will carry us through. We've used those strategically in the past. Fortunately, we've never had to actually use them, but we've had them available. So we're continuing to use them for that purpose in our out-year budgets. Then the ending fund balance itself, as we break down what those numbers are, and I've spoken to this before, on the next slide, we kind of speak of what is that $40 million? Well, that $40 million, and if you look at the bottom half of the column, is mostly restricted. Those are those one-time dollars, those are federal dollars, those are dollars designated for specific programs. So of the 40 million, 25 of them are designated as restricted. 5 of them, or 4.5, are designated as our required reserve of 3%. And that leaves an unassigned balance of 10 million at the end of this year. The deficit spending continues to pull that unassigned down, and you'll see in 24-25, it's nearly gone. We are trying our best to reduce the restricted dollars, and you'll see that drops from 25 million to 20 million in 24-25. But our unassigned falls off to just 1.1 million, and that's why we start bringing in the Calero funds in the out years. So you'll see there is no assigned in the 25-26 and 26-27, but the Calero funds are helping offset that as it buys us time to adjust and direct the ship. So what we anticipate then looking forward is bringing this back to you at the June 20th meeting for approval. We're anticipating a positive certification from the county because we are able to meet our obligations for the next 3 years. They will warn of our deficit spending, and it's something we do need to keep monitoring. We have state budget negotiations and trailer bill language that will come out in the weeks ahead, so that might make some slight adjustments. We'll close our books, bring you the unaudited actuals, and see what expenses have yet to be paid, what expenses weren't incurred that we expected, and round that all out in September. And then once we start the school year and the budget is fully passed and we have our closing from 23-24, when we get to our first interim in December, we'll have kind of a real update on where that budget actually landed versus what we're really anticipating at this point. So are there any questions I can answer?
None for me. Thank you so much, Mark. That was very thorough. Is there any from the board? Trustee Pacheco, I know you're online.
I guess my question is, what would be the plan to reduce the structural deficit? Because we'll get that warning when we also get our positive certification, but we've been watching the structural deficit, just exist for all these many years. Is there some type of approach that we will take to maybe somehow reduce that by significantly somehow?
Yeah, I think we'll be looking at some of the revenues that we don't include that we anticipate and see if those continue to come in. That has always helped us, like the redevelopment agency brings in $1.5 to $2 million. There are some restrictions on that, but it does definitely helps the general fund. And just kind of monitoring and advocating for the revenue side and then just watching our expenditure side. We've had a lot of expenses after the pandemic, many of which were covered by one-time dollars, but the needs are there and the one-time dollars are not. So we have to start prioritizing and figuring out how to navigate all those needs and the dollars that we have to work with.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mark. So if that's it from the board, thank you so much. We can go ahead and move on to information item 8.2, Oak Grove School District Local Control Accountability Plan for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Thank you, President Gonzalez. As you know, over the last couple of months, there's been various points of updates related to the building development of the LCAP, and we're excited to be able to share the culmination, part 1 of the culmination. And so I'd like to introduce our Assistant Superintendent, Amy Bowles, to further present this item and our guests as well.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Monzo, President Gonzalez, and members of the board. It is what you have been waiting for all year. The presentation of the LCAP draft. This is a new one, the 3-year plan that we are presenting here for you today. We'll be bringing back next week for your consideration for approval. So the LCAP plan is that 3-year plan that describes the goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes that address state and local priorities. We shared with you last week our efforts in just getting the feedback from the community. We don't take the responsibility lightly that this is to be a plan of the community. It's a plan of input of over 2,000 people, 2,500 people who took the survey, and another 300 people who we talked to in person, not to mention all of the other staff members and families and community members who have come and talk with us through Cafe Con Jose, board meetings, other meetings throughout the year, and giving us their input. And so I mention that because I just really want to highlight that this is not a plan of ed services, not a plan of executive team, but really a plan of the school district in support of our students based on data and based on goals of the state. I really do want to thank the business services side of the house. Associate Superintendent Evans just shared the budget component of it. And as he mentioned, it really does go hand in hand. So with the services and actions for students, and they help us know how much money we have to be able to identify those priorities. And so I know that you received the backup. The entirety of the LCAP plan is 105 pages. Today, our team is here to share with you highlights and a summary of that plan. And so we're really excited to have much of the Ed Services team here today sharing some of that plan with you tonight. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Director Enna to start us off with that presentation. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Assistant Superintendent Bowles. She's right, this is our much anticipated presentation for you. The team's been working on the draft for many, many months. So we'll get started. The annual cycle of the LCAP it really involves the stakeholder educational partners input. So what we're presenting
Director
to you.
Enna, just really quick, I'm sorry for interrupting. Can you do in percent mode so that way they may be able to see that bigger?
I
Is that
am in slide mode, in slideshow mode.
okay? Perfect. That other side went away, so I think that's a little bit better. Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so it is cyclical in nature. So every year we do need to update the LCAP, the goals and the actions based on ed partner feedback. But every 3 years we have the opportunity to really analyze our effectiveness of our goals and actions and determine a kind of an all new 3-year plan for you. So that's what we're presenting to you today. Tonight is presenting the draft and public hearing. So we're going to kick it off with goal 1. And goal 1, all students will be proficient in meeting and or exceeding all Common Core standards and 21st century skills. One of the things that you'll notice about this goal is that we've added to the goal 21st century skills. And the reason for that, based on our ed partner feedback, is that we've reduced the number of goals from 6 goals to 5. And with that came the bringing out previously goal 4, which was a technology goal, taking those actions and placing them into other existing goals, because technology really does serve our students and our families and our communities across the board. And it really does have a place in more than one goal. So we wanted to just call that out, that the 21st century skills are here in goal 1. And so with that, we've updated our metrics, and in the board backup, you have the baseline data for all of these metrics. So we're reporting out annually with a 3-year goal outcome on our SBAC, ELA, and math state assessments, and newly added is the CAST, California Science Test. And that will be reported annually as well as our local ELA and math benchmark assessments. We're also going to be reporting in this goal student access to instructional materials. So that looks like our Williams visit data, as well as the implementation of academic content standards, access to a broad course of study, completion rate of induction teachers and our properly credentialed teachers, and then the results of our annual student technology survey. And that's when our students tell us how they engage with technology annually. So the actions and services that are here really give us an overview of all of the main functions that our team provides to our students in in their instructional program.
Good evening. Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Eva Marcoida. I am a coordinator, curriculum instruction and assessment, and I'm here to highlight some of the actions and services that you'll see in Goal 1. We will continue to provide the opportunity for students to engage in after-school programming at our intermediate sites at the intermediate level. We will maintain one-to-one student devices. We will continue to provide IT support and explore ed tech tools that integrate AI. And then here are some changes or additions to Goal 1 that we would like to share with you. We will engage in professional development on the new math curriculum and the new California math framework. We'll provide new teachers core curriculum PD on a 2-year cycle. We're exploring and updating our classroom technology through the BOND project. And I am thrilled to share that we will be expanding our visual and performing arts program across the elementary sites for all grades, that's TK through 6, TK through 8, using Prop 28 funding based on feedback from all of our educational partners.
Thank you, Eva. Goal 2 is very similar to the previous Goal 2. We will employ equitable practices to accelerate the achievement, the academic and language achievement for our traditionally underserved student groups. So the metrics that we'll be reporting annually to measure the effectiveness of our goals and actions include our English learner access to the California standards, including ELD standards. We'll be reporting on our dashboard, English learner progress indicator, as well as our English learner reclassification rate annually, our rate of our LTELs, our long-term English learners, and the California dashboard results for ELA and math. One thing that's different across the board in all of our goals, whenever we report on the California dashboard, we'll be reporting specifically on the metrics, so the distance from standard, the percentage, the rates, as opposed to simply the colors. And the reason for that is because the color, going from one color to the next, does indicate progress, but you can make progress and still be in the same color. So we're going to report annually on the specific metrics so that we can also determine progress. So Goal 2, actions and services.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Julie Silva, Coordinator in Educational Services. Here you see goals and services that we have put in place to support the diverse needs of our multilingual English learners, foster youth, homeless youth, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. We recognize in this goal the importance of our students seeing themselves in their classroom, and you'll see here noted diverse and inclusive programs, culturally and linguistically responsive strategies and books to address the students who are seated in our classrooms. Our professional development programs and intervention systems support students with content, language, and literacy in K through 8 classrooms as a comprehensive approach to learning. You'll recognize the SEAL model as a signature pedagogical framework that supports this work in our district. As we are serving the needs of our unduplicated students, it's important that we have accessible data systems to monitor their progress. And so we've provided for that in Goal 2 as well. Changes to Goal 2 for 24-25 are data for English learners, for multilingual English learners, and our recent influx of newcomers have led us to provide for 2 additional full-time ELTPs, English learner teacher partners, who will support newcomer and English language development across our sites. We are also very excited to expand SEAL training and implementation at Taylor and Oak Ridge this year, beginning this year at Taylor and Oak Ridge. We will provide, we are excited to expand ethnic studies to train a 3rd cohort of K through 3rd grade teachers, and continue to support with supplemental social studies materials at all 3 of our intermediate sites. And in this goal, we will also be providing for the immediate refreshment of technological resources for students experiencing homelessness and identified foster youth.
Great. Thank you, Julie. All right, Goal 3 will provide an inclusive learning environment to students with disabilities to best support social, emotional, and academic development. To measure this goal, to measure the effectiveness, our ELA and math California dashboard indicator specifically for students with disabilities, as well as our local ELA and math benchmark data for students with disabilities. We'll also be looking at inclusion data of students in SDC classes, mainstreaming, and inclusion data of students with disabilities in Gen Ed.
Thank you, trustees. I'm Megan Duffy, Coordinator of Special Education. So for Goal 3, our actions and services include curriculum implementation and training for teachers and Tier 2 behavioral supports. Another action includes our professional development and learning days. As a department, we gathered feedback, listened to where our team wanted to dive deeper, and we're even able to have some of our expert special education teachers be presenters. As displayed in the pictures, one of our teachers did a professional development for our instructional assistants, and then there's another picture of just people learning. So in our professional developments, it included our special education service providers, teachers, and instructional assistants. So a few changes and additions to Goal 3 include implementing new supplemental curriculum for special education students. This previous year, we created a curriculum SIG team with teachers who represented educational specialists, mild to moderate, and extensive needs classes. These teachers were able to find supplemental curriculums of interest in which served the student population that they served, and they were able to softly pilot these programs. From their experiences, the curriculum SIG team chose some supplemental curriculum to then implement in the following years. Another change includes the restructuring of how we use our registered behavior technicians. The change is from RBTs supporting individual students to now serving, or the goal is to serve more students in our intensive needs programs than just one individual.
Great, thank you, Megan. Goal 4, which was previously our technology goal, we've moved our previous Goal 6 to now Goal 4 is our family engagement goal. And so we will actively engage families and community members in supporting the implementation of CCSS instruction and providing input to program decisions. To measure this, we will be understanding our parent input to decision making. So one of the things we did differently this year on our LCAP Educational Partners Survey is we combined it with a survey that we typically do later in the spring to measure some of these, parent and family engagement for our local indicators, self-assessment, and we combine those together. So the result of that was a lot more data from parents, a lot more survey data. And so combining those, we've we've put that into our LCAP metrics. So that's a survey question about how parents feel they're able to give input and the opportunities for that. We'll also track our access to interpretation and translation services, attendance at district parent meetings, and if our school is, if parents and families feel that our schools are welcoming environments for everyone.
Thank you, Board of Trustees. I'm Shannon Bowie, Coordinator of Student Services. We've heard from our educational partners the importance of continuing to support our students and families. And as Associate Superintendent Evans stated earlier, although the one-time funds are gone, we're trying to prioritize based on this feedback. So this 3-year LCAP prioritizes continued support for our social worker, and we're exploring ways to continue to recruit social work interns. We're also continuing to prioritize the needs at our Title I funded sites with an annual back to school resource fair. We had our first one this year. It was a success, and our next one is planned for August 9th. Mark your calendars. I'm also excited to share that this year we were able to relaunch, as Superintendent Monzo stated, the adult ESL classes. We're going to continue that next year since we brought that back for the first time this year. And then in the picture to the right, you can see a shot of our Cinco de Mayo event that we had this year at Bernal. Our parents have stated that they really enjoy our family and cultural events, so we want to make sure we prioritize those as well. And then some changes or additions to Goal 4. One of the things that we have intentionally looked at last year and again this year is adjusting the schedules of our community liaisons to better represent the needs of the site based on principal input and community input. And then we're also excited that we're going to add on an additional social worker, licensed clinical social worker to our mental health team. So thank you.
All right, and Goal 5, our school and classroom environments support learning, safety, engagement, and healthy well-being. So to measure this, we'll be looking at our annually reporting on our chronic absenteeism and suspension rates from the California dashboard, attendance factor and pupil expulsion rates. We're also going to be reporting on just more local data, students with 2 or more documented behavior incidents, and as well as a survey that we conduct twice a year is our student safety, connectedness, and belonging survey. And so we'll be reporting on the results from the spring survey and that. And then a couple other metrics that are requirements are middle school dropout rate and facilities in good repair. So for Goal 5, actions and services.
Hello, good evening, Superintendent, members of the board. My name is Laura Demery. I'm a coordinator here in Student Services, and I'm here to present on our Goal 5 action services and changes. In essence, these actions and services focus on providing comprehensive support for students, including behavioral intervention, mental health services, physical wellness, and programs and targeted assistance for students. You'll be happy to hear that we've already begun to start going out and doing informational nights in the community on community schools. So we've had a lot recently, so it's been really exciting. And we are also in, amount changes, sorry, actions and services. So in the picture here is Santa Teresa. So that's Principal Mark Lepore with his students, which is our big focus on attendance improvement and monitoring. And I think they raised their attendance up pretty significantly. And that's something we want to continue to do over the next few years as we see how important attendance is to us. So it's going to be some of the continued actions and services. As for any changes or additions, we want to continue to highlight our district's commitment to students' well-being, academic success, and address the needs of unduplicated student groups through additions and changes to our various initiatives and resource allocations. So some of one of, I think, the more forward-thinking things that we've been doing is we're going to be convening a committee of principals, district office administrators, and other staff to draft culturally responsive and equitable behavior matrix and consultation and collaboration to really reduce over-expulsion and over-suspension of some of our more, students that are being challenged and at risk or at promise, however you want to say.
and staff, and also continuing to pay for supports with mental health services. And also I do want to highlight that we've done a lot of additional training in restorative justice, which has been done by Shannon here. She's been training the district on restorative justice to really take a different approach on suspension, expulsion, and discipline. So with that, I will turn the baton back over to Director Enna.
Thank you. All right, so that really does capture the key points in our 5 goals for the 24-25 LCAP. As you saw from the previous information item in the budget presentation, our total funds from the LCAP, about 125 million, makes up about 82% of the total expenditures, the 153 million. So really, this is the LCAP encompasses such a huge portion of our funding and how we spend our money. And so it's just really nice to have that transparency in a living document that we update annually. Just wanted to, even though we've gone over the goals and actions, call out specific actions in our LCAP that support equity, diversity, inclusion, belonging, and student wellness. So I'll just go through some of these items that we are, as I said, we're reporting on some new metrics, some local metrics. So we'll be disaggregating the data in our metrics. We have that expanded visual and performing arts opportunities through the Arts and Music in Schools grant funding. We have electives at all 3 of our intermediate schools in ethnic studies, the Intro to Ethnic Studies course, and also expanding our ethnic studies training for teachers. We'll be implementing the new math curriculum and providing lots of support for teachers in a strong implementation. We'll be continuing our AVID elective at Burnell and a partnership with Tyson Amir, the author of Black Boy Poems, for our middle school programs. Continued DEIB, district meetings, and we really want parents to be available for district meetings and events. So we offer babysitting. In addition, we are offering funding for after-school programs as well as summer programs for intervention. We have scholarships to foster youth, homeless youth, socioeconomically disadvantaged students at our base programs. Continuing the funding for the Young Black Scholars Program for primary students of African ancestry, as well as Shannon mentioned, the Back to School Resource Fair at Davis, and continuing our social worker and social work intern support. We will be providing de-escalation training to general education teachers, academic counselors at the middle schools continue, as well as mental health counseling services and a screener for social emotional needs. The translation and interpreter services provides access to parents and families with language needs other than English. So we're here today. We present the draft and have the public hearing. And the next step is for next week to bring this item back on the agenda for an action item for adoption. So in addition to, I said we've been kind of working on this for months, in addition to the educational partners feedback, and all of the work that the amazing team has done to provide the narratives and do the writing and do the update the baseline data. We have received ongoing support from the folks in the Santa Clara County Office of Education who have reviewed our LCAP at length, given us edits and suggestions, and so that we can ensure that we have an approvable LCAP to present to you. So thank you very much. And if there's any questions, we're open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Director Enna. I think in talking to other districts in the county, Oak Grove is really unique in the collaborative efforts that we put to place to put this plan in front of you. And so I really want to also extend just some gratitude to Director Enna, who's been quarterbacking all of us and this amazing team. She's the one who coordinates us with business services. And it's not every district where we have this many people who are engaged in writing the LCAP together. And so really proud of that. And I think that's something that I know the county office has also commented on that's really special and unique of Oak Grove. And as I said, it's really driven by the feedback and the needs of the community that have been shared with us. And so thank you so much for the time. Thank you again, Director Anna, for coordinating all of us, and to all of our managers who are here this evening to help present that draft for you. So as she said, if you have any questions at this time, happy to help answer them for you.
Thank you so much again. I think to just elevate what you were sharing, Assistant Superintendent Bowles, I really appreciated just the presentation and how you guys went about sharing the story of our LCAP, hearing the many different voices across the entire Ed Services team. I really appreciated that. And so I would love to see more of that in the future. Just the many different people that champion, right, our work in all these different levels. So thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I'll go in order of just the goals. I'll start with goal 1. I wanted to hear a little bit more of what local ELA and math benchmark assessments means, if that's local to our county, or is it where you think more of our school site systems? So I wanted to just hear and speak a little bit more to that.
I can start, and then Director Enna can add if there's anything that I've missed, but every school district, it does have the capacity to choose their local benchmark data. So the one where the metric is mentioned in the LCAP is specifically the iReady data that we give. And we give that systems wide throughout the district 3 times a year, and all of our K through 8th grade students take that.
Great, thank you. And I think with that note, if there's, I know iReady is probably one of the few that we have that is consistent. Again, not all of our students are able to take, but if there's any other data where maybe even if it's not all of our student population is taking it, but it's maybe consistent, maybe it's a grade level, or if it's a certain subject, I would love to see a little bit more of that local data. I think we speak about this every year, but you know, waiting for SBAC scores or just relying on that one test, right, can sometimes not have us make the most informed decisions. And I know our teachers and our staff are consistently reevaluating and looking at various data across the school year. And so if we could just elevate that as we get these LCAP presentations, I think I would love to see more of those like local pockets of data. Thank you. And then for goal 3, something that I would just want to elevate or add from what I saw is if we can get, I know we have a parent goal already, but if for our special ed specifically, or just that inclusive learning environment, if we can add some sort of parental component where we really are engaging with our students with diverse needs, and whether that's, you know, training for our parents to understand just what can be a very, you know, legalese type of process. I think I would love to see that highlighted here. And then I wanted to just thank the wording where we're training general ed teachers. So it's not just, again, this over reliance to just one part of our staff, but it really is if we're going to move towards inclusive environments, and if we're truly preparing them for what the world looks like and what high school looks like beyond, right, it is inclusive environments and making sure that it's a full staff support. And also I think that speaks to the fact that there's some of our students that might not be identified yet, and we know that there's various needs and differentiation that needs to happen anyways in the gen ed classroom. And so I think I wanted to just thank you for adding that that detail, that it's not just, you know, special ed teachers, but the burden is on all of us to respond to diverse needs. So I feel that in goal 3, and I thank you for that. Let's see if there was, I think that's it for now. Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other board comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I just want to thank you guys for your very in-depth presentation. I appreciate you guys all taking the time out of your night or out of your evening to come. I always enjoy seeing a bunch of faces present. Okay, so that wraps up our
And
last.
Just lastly, thank you for the feedback. I know that there is a parent subcommittee that meets with special ed staff as well. And so that feedback, we can continue to elevate that and bring that back and maybe have it be more visible as part of some of the work. But it is an area that I know our staff is working and have been working on developing that relationship with our special ed parents as well.
Yeah, we have a CAC parent group for the first time this year that we've developed, and we have a parent representative that goes to the SELPA meetings as well. So the great thing is that we've had that one of the parents from CAC join us for the special ed task force meetings. So we'll definitely be mindful. We appreciate that feedback of elevating that and making sure that people know that that is a continuous effort for us. We also had our first family fun day for parents and students and families of special education. We had a lot of parents that showed up to the park. And so just building relationships to a family so that they have that trust in us and that comfort to approach us, even when they have to talk about things that may be hard to, to ask questions about. We're just building those efforts to make those bridges. So thank you for bringing that up and giving us the opportunity to share a little bit of
Yeah,
the
thank
work
you
we've
so
started
much.
to do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that all sounds fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, amazing. And that brings us to our last item of the night, correspondence and board discussion. We may now hear from board members regarding correspondence from individuals or organizations regarding district programs or services. Board members may report on meetings attended or other related district matters. Is there anyone who has any board correspondence tonight?
I just have one thing. Next week, I'm going to be, the district's going to be sending me to the NALEO conference in Vegas, which is going to be a collection of Latino elected officials talking about a variety of public policy issues. And I'm going to be attending as many of the education, or not as many, all of the education and artificial intelligence related workshops. I'll be taking really good notes. I'll come back with some resources in those notes for all of you. And I'm also going to be participating on a panel on Thursday that talks about how Latinos and the Asian American Pacific Islander community can collaborate on public policy issues. And luckily, since I'm part of both communities, I'm excited to be one of the panelists on that panel. So just wanted to share that, and I can't wait to bring some really good resources at our next board meeting next week.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jorge. So I just wanted to take this time very quickly to thank all of our board members. I know that we have such a unique and younger board here, and a lot of us are balancing home life and work and a lot of responsibilities as we build our families and our careers. And I know that things come up a lot of the times. I know that we are constantly juggling our work-life balance, and I want to thank you guys so much for always making it work. Even if it means jumping on a Zoom in the middle of your classroom or, catching up after the meetings. I really appreciate you guys all attending and taking the time for our district. So with that, I will move for adjournment. I guess I just made the motion. And do I have a second?
I'll
Okay,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, seeing none. Our meeting is adjourned at 7:34. Thank you so much, guys.
All right. Have a good evening. Thank you.